Two female cops approach a man in a quiet parking lot, their uniforms crisp, their expressions calm, but determined. "We just need to see your ID," one officer says. The man, standing his ground, replies, "Am I being detained?" His calm but firm tone shifts the mood, and a back and forth begins that's as intense as it is surprising. What starts as a routine interaction quickly turns into a showdown of rights and authority. With every question, the tension builds. Who will back down first? The officers, trained to take control, find themselves unexpectedly challenged by someone who knows his rights inside and out. Their frustration is palpable, but the man remains composed, standing firm on principle. As the standoff reaches a boiling point, something happens that neither side saw coming, shifting the dynamic entirely. This story explores more than just the law. It's about power, courage, and knowing where to draw the line. The man's steady demeanor contrasts sharply with the growing tension in the officers' voices. "Sir, if you have nothing to hide, why not just show your ID?" One of them asks, her tone firm but edged with frustration. He smiles faintly, not in defiance, but in quiet confidence. "I respect what you're doing," he says, "but unless you can name the law I'm breaking, I'm under no obligation to comply." By now, a small crowd has gathered nearby, watching with curious eyes. The officers exchange a glance, silently weighing their next move. One of them steps forward, her hand hovering near her radio. "We're not here to argue with you," she says, trying to regain control. But cooperation makes everything easier. The man doesn't flinch. "For who?" he asks calmly. His words hang in the air, forcing everyone, including the crowd, to question who truly holds the power in this moment. The female cops stand firm, their professional composure masking the growing unease beneath. "This isn't a debate, sir," one says, her voice lower now, as if trying to reestablish authority. The man folds his arms casually, still unshaken. "It seems like it is," he replies. "But I'm just asking you to follow the rules, the same ones you're sworn to uphold." Meanwhile, the onlookers are whispering among themselves, some pulling out their phones to record the unfolding standoff. A middle-aged woman murmurs, he knows his stuff, while a younger man quietly says, "This is getting intense." The presence of the crowd seems to shift the balance of power, their silent judgment pressing against the officers. One of the cops glances at the group of bystanders, her jaw tightening. It's clear this is more than a routine check now. It's a test of authority, patience, and the fine line between order and overreach. The tension is almost tangible now. One of the officers steps forward, her hand still near her radio. Her partner hesitates, glancing at her, as if silently debating whether escalating is the right move. The crowd grows restless, their murmurs becoming louder. The man remains unshaken, his calm presence a stark contrast to the quiet storm brewing around him. "You're obstructing an investigation," the officer says firmly, her voice now carrying a hint of urgency. The man raises an eyebrow, his tone steady. "Am I? Or are you overstepping? What's the investigation, exactly?" His words echo, and for a moment, it feels like time slows. The officer hesitates just long enough for the crowd to take notice. The energy shifts again as someone from the crowd calls out, "He's got a point." The officer's expression tightens, her authority quietly questioned not just by the man, but by the eyes on her. The officer lowers her hand from the radio, clearly weighing her next move. Before she can speak, a voice from the crowd breaks through the tension. "I've seen this before," says an older man stepping forward. His weathered face and steady gaze command attention. They don't have the grounds to ask for ID unless there's reasonable suspicion. "Am I right?" His question isn't directed at the officers, but at the man holding his ground. The man nods, his calm demeanor unwavering. Exactly. It's our right to ask why. His words send a ripple through the crowd, emboldening them. A young woman near the back calls out, "So why are they pressing him, then?" The officers exchange a glance, clearly unsettled by this sudden shift. The partner steps forward now, her tone sharper. "We're just doing our job. This isn't a debate." But the crowd, growing bolder, closes ranks, and the standoff takes an unexpected turn. The tension reaches its peak as the crowd edges closer, their murmurs turning into open calls for answers. One of the officers takes a deep breath, her frustration now visible. "All right," she says, raising her hands in a placating gesture. "Let's just clarify this. Sir, if you're not doing anything wrong, why make this difficult?" The man remains composed, his voice steady but firm. "It's not about making things difficult. It's about standing up for what's right. If we let our rights be ignored in small moments like these, what's next?" Just as it seems the standoff might dissolve into a stalemate, a voice crackles over the officer's radio. "Unit 12, you're requested at another scene. Immediate response required." Both officers freeze, their eyes locking for a moment. The decision is made in an instant. "You're free to go," one officer says curtly, stepping back. The man thanks them calmly, but as the officers retreat to their cruiser, another twist emerges. From the crowd, the older man who spoke earlier approaches the man. "You handled that well," he says with a knowing smile. "But you might want to check your taillights. They are out." The man blinks in surprise, realizing the entire encounter may have been triggered by something as simple as a faulty light. He watches as the older man walks away, leaving him and the crowd with more questions than answers. As the officers drive away, the crowd begins to disperse, their curiosity satisfied, but their minds still buzzing with questions. The man stands by his car, processing the unexpected advice about his taillights. He crouches down to check, and sure enough, both lights are out. A small smile crosses his face. Whether at the irony or at the strange wisdom of the older man, he isn't sure. The parking lot grows quiet again, the hum of the passing interaction fading into memory. For the man, it's a reminder that even when you're in the right, it's the small, overlooked details that can lead to unexpected challenges. He replaces the bulbs that evening, but the experience stays with him. The story ends not with a grand conclusion, but with a simple truth. Knowing your rights is important, but so is staying aware of the little things. Sometimes they make all the difference.